This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below. Well, it's a much better week to talk about what's going on with the Cleveland Browns. As you know, I like to bring on Cam every week to give us perspective. She's there almost every day at practice, following these guys, seeing what the vibes are. And Cam, we're just going to start with it. What are the vibes like in the locker room? Like, does it feel like a culture change to you when you watch this Browns team this year versus in years past?
Yeah, I think over the past few years, right, there's felt like a change in this culture. It's progressively better and then some iffy moments. But even through the highs that they've had in this culture change, I have never experienced a locker room like the one after Sunday's game. It felt just very, very different. The guys were not just excited because they won, right? There was a lightness. There were guys that are normally kind of just like closed off, don't really want much to do with media, just want to get in and out, do their job kind of thing, that were just happy to see everybody, happy to talk, super personable, right? And you could see that even on the sideline, like Kevin Stefanski chest bumping Deshaun Watson. He didn't go up, but he chest bumped him on the sideline. Amari Cooper getting a celebration on after his touchdown. And then like in the locker room, you know, like guys that are kind of quiet and reserved. Donovan Peoples-Jones was just more than gracious and like very, very well spoken after the game, and did this interview with me that it was great, and it was just a different vibe. He's always nice, but it just felt a little different, right? Amari Cooper was smiling and making jokes at his locker during, you know, the little scrum that we had, the media scrum, and he's typically a guy that doesn't do that. And those moments, that's kind of how I gauge how guys are feeling, is how they interact with other people, what their mood is, what the vibes are. And the vibes were some of the best that I have experienced from this team, and it just in a totally different way. So yes, a locker room is way more enjoyable to be in after a win, because guys obviously are happy, they're excited, they're in a good mood. But this one was just even a little different. And I think it goes back to the defense, right, has been playing lights out 3 games. Special teams has had moments, but like kicking has been solid. And offense was the question mark. And not only did you have that question answered, you had a definitive game that showed, hey, we can play complementary football. We can put this thing together and make it look like this on offense, defense, and special teams. I think it was what the team needed. Obviously, it's what the fans needed. We talked about it last week. But like, I think the team needed this too. I think the team needed to see what they could operate like when things were going right, when Deshaun Watson was firing on all cylinders, when the offense was open in the pass game and the run game. And that was not certain if that was going to look like that after Nick Chubb went down. And I think having the motivation to play for Nick Chubb and then putting it together and it all coming together the way that it did, I think it changed the mindset and the mentality, and it created a totally different vibe. And it was a really, really good vibe for sure.
Yeah, and a lot of the times whenever we talk about like culture in football, it gets divorced and from what we think of like what good culture is in a regular workplace, even though, hey, these jobs are like football. I know it's a dream job. I know people would love to be there. I know it's a job you would love to have, but jobs are jobs at the end of the day. And when we say culture, I think we really mean, do these dudes like going to work? Because, you know, anybody who's worked a job, especially in your career, it matters if you like going to work, right? You know, I like being on YouTube, being in control of my stuff, so I could put 3 videos out. But if I didn't like the structure I was in, then I don't know if I'm that productive, right? You know, it matters how much you enjoy where you're at, the environment that's set up around just the team itself, if you like to come there. Like, I think one of the biggest factors in why this defense looks better, They like coming to work this year. They did not like coming to work last year, right? We had Jadeveon Clowney, mad, that he not Miles. We had all this stuff going on around the team, and why can't we get on the same page, and this communication and different people having their different theories on who's wrong and what. And it wasn't fun to come to work. Jim Schwartz came in, and I like to make this reference where I'm like, Jim Schwartz is not doing anything crazy. What he is doing is being P. Diddy, right? Like, how P. Diddy would come on and he would drop a track. It's the same track that he sampled, but he got some fun lyrics on it. He got 112 on the chorus, and we feel much better about it. That's kind of what he's doing. He's doing the P. Diddy thing where he's like, you know what? We about to make this a jam, right? Every time you get a touch in the backfield, celebrate that. We about to start jamming. And once you start doing jamming, now what everybody think P. Diddy's a great producer. He ain't produced a single track. But you know what he produced? Jams. All right. Like, you know what he got you doing? Dancing. You know why he dancing in the video? Because he tried to get you to dance to the song that's in the video, right? And that's what Jim Schwartz has done. He's brought that energy. And I think a lot of people just really enjoy playing right now. I think the offense has not really had that problem. I think the defense has, right? Where they just are so caught up in the minutia that they can't play football. And this year, it feels like they can play that free and loose football, and that they really just enjoy what they're doing.
Oh, absolutely. And that's one of the things and I've said it before, it's not a knock on Joe Woods, the human being, the person. He is a great, great person, super nice man. And I really think that he has some really good ideas defensively. As a defensive coordinator, in his mind, I think he had a problem translating that to the football field, translating it to these guys. And I think it became exhausting because they were trying to learn what he wanted them to do. And it didn't click. He didn't translate it the right way. And it became a task. Every week became a task of trying to figure out what was supposed to happen, trying to figure out if the game plan was going to change. He's calling two plays at once and then having to communicate which one is which. Jim Schwartz says, no, here's what it is. Defensive line, cause chaos. Linebackers, watch out. Because if they miss something, you got to be there. Corners and safeties, get your guy, stay on your guy, stay in your zone, and then also watch out for if the defensive line isn't holding up. Like, that's what it is. It's cleanup duties after the defensive line in a way that still allows every single person throughout that defensive unit to make plays at any given moment and be the guy to get in there and cause disruption. And I really think that, like, that on its own, it's not, he said it before too, it's not about the scheme. It's not about the specifics of where he wants somebody and what one individual person has to do. It's, what are you good at? Okay, go do it. Like, that's it. Just do it. Go do what you're good at. Like, play to your strengths, cause disruption. It is honestly just about chaos and reckless abandon out there on defense and not letting the offense have anything. And so far, that's exactly what they've done. And I think that allows guys to have fun because it's just, hey, what am I good at? I don't have to try to be something I'm not. I don't have to try to be somewhere that I don't know if I should be. And they're out there doing exactly what it is that made them fall in love with football and, like, fall in love with, like, their position. And that not only helps with the buy-in to Jim Schwartz, which is full send, like they're all in on Jim Schwartz, but it translates to the product on the field. And that's why this defense is hands down through the first 3 games, the best defense that we've seen in the NFL.
Yeah, it's clear there. One thing Kevin said in his press conference I thought was interesting was, and I think even Deshaun, I think this was mirrored a couple of times. I don't know if they were told to mirror this, but you heard it where they said, yeah, we knew by Tuesday that we were going to bounce back, from that game. Like, we knew where we were. We knew that Nick Chubb was in the building again, and we felt like, morale-wise, we were well surpassed where we needed to be in order to win that game on Sunday. What do you think goes into that, right? Because there have been Browns teams in the past, like we talk about how losing in Pittsburgh can just destroy your season in previous Browns teams where just nobody has any confidence anymore. It's a different team pre and post Pittsburgh, or just one game like that can really just affect how people view the rest of the season, where this week it just didn't happen. They had as bad of a game offensively as they could, and they came back out and said, all right, well, next week, and really just turned the page. And I think that is a sign of real systemic change for this Browns team, because how many teams in the past would have folded after that kind of a game?
Oh, 100%. I think most of the Browns teams that we've seen would have been the season. And I think that's what kind of led to a bunch of the question marks. The last time we talked was before we found out Nick Chubb was back in the building, right? And so I had those question marks. I didn't know how they were going to respond. Is the loss of Nick Chubb too much for this Browns team to take? Because he is the heart and soul, and that the energy that came off of that game on Monday night was, like I said, the energy in the locker room after Sunday's game was it was so different than what I've seen before. The energy in that game right after Nick Chubb got hurt was different than I have ever seen. I've seen we've seen plenty of injuries, right? Nothing compares to the energy that was sucked out of that team in that moment when Nick Chubb was hurt, because you just don't expect it. They didn't expect it, and I think it rattled them a lot. But I also think that the leadership from the players to the coaches, the culture that they have created allowed them to respond to that. It allowed them to say, we're not giving up. And the moves they made this offseason too, I think, are really important to that, because all across the board, from the front office down through the coaching staff to the talent on the field, there has been a dedicated effort to say, this is a team that we think can win, that can get us where we want to go. They went out, they got Deshaun Watson. They went out, they bolstered that defense, right? They added weapons across the offense. They went in specifically knowing that this is our chance. This is an opportunity to take control of this football team again, and maybe win a championship. And I think knowing the efforts, even with a player like Nick Chubb, I think that is a big part of what went into that morale boost, knowing that everyone has the same goal and everyone is so bought into each other. And the last thing that I think needed to happen, and what wouldn't surprise me, is if this team continues this momentum, because I think the last thing that needed to be bought into was seeing a very good game from Deshaun Watson. I think the offense trusted him. Obviously, they respect him, but I think everyone needed to see that, and I think they saw it. And it wouldn't surprise me if this is the start of something really, really great for the offense as well. Now, things happen, and I say things and I'm often wrong, but to me, the way that they have rallied around Nick Chubb in that game, they dedicated it to him, right? And they did it, and they played a very, very good game. I think the way you can rally around Deshaun Watson now, and the way that there's trust that can be built off of what they were able to do, the connection with him and Amari Cooper, the way that he was anticipating through DPJ, we talked about it, like the anticipation, the way that he was able to see his offensive weapons and connect with them the way he does in practice, put it out there on game tape. I think that's so big. And I think that is a big reason why this is a lot different than it seemed to be after the game on Monday. I think there's a lot of buy-in, a lot of trust built, and a lot of dedication of a common goal is the goal that everybody wants. And then they did a really good job of bouncing back. And I think it all comes down to that, just the trust and the buy-in. Now, I think it's across the board now. I was waiting on Deshaun, and now they've got all their pieces of where they needed to find those answers.
Yeah, and I think, like, for everybody, they needed, like, I brought it up. It was kind of like a video game that keeps getting delayed, right? Like, it's like we've been waiting since March and talking about these games that Deshaun's going to have. They're going to show us that, like, this is why you made the deal. And you expect that the second you get him on there. Now, he had a weird, like, he had the suspension for obvious reasons, and then came back very sloppy from that suspension. And it was a weird 6 games, right? And you didn't get what you wanted out those 6 games. So, okay, now we're going to have to wait till the regular season. I think a lot of people were fine with that. And then the first game, hey, man, it's going to be another delay. It's raining. right? Like it's raining bad. Like Joe Burrow got 82 yards. Like what can you do about that, right? Like it's just that bad out there. Okay, all right. Monday Night Football, national TV seems like a perfect day to drop it, and they drop it, and it's clear that this thing needs a patch immediately, right? Like it was like, what is this? This is the same thing I played before. Like this is buggy, and it's just and you go on Twitter, you're furious about the game. But just like video games can be patched and better and fixed nowadays, the same way offenses can be fixed and patched. And look, he saw that tape, and what I'm happy about is that he saw that tape and saw the same things that we saw. He didn't see what, some of his most ardent sycophants wanted him to see, which is it was Kevin's fault and he didn't do anything wrong and it was everybody else. He saw that this was on him. He was too amped up. He was not trying to take what the defense was giving him. He was not trusting things, and he did not stay in the pocket long enough to make some of these things happen. And you notice in this game, you saw a significantly lesser amount of Deshaun Watson scurrying out the pocket, unless he was hit first, right? That's the only time that you saw it. You saw a lot of him stepping up, staying in there, standing tall, and getting out there, because he saw what happened on Monday, and knew that couldn't happen again on Sunday. And I think Kevin did a great job of getting him started early. Take this, take that, take this. Look, we're going to nickel and dime this defense until they get impatient, because to give the Titans credit, I thought they were very patient at the beginning of that game, and they were playing really well in those play actions. They weren't really giving any space. And then eventually you can break them, right? You have a tendency breaker route with Jerome Ford, where he's going to act like he's running that shallow cross that they always run on 3rd and long, and then breaks it upfield, and you can break a play there. Boom. Take it. Or Amari Cooper. They just decide to forget about him, right? Okay, you see it, throw it. How many times have we seen that? And I'm not trying to point fingers at anybody, but where we've had these conversations where it's like, oh, it was an easy throw. He didn't do anything. Yeah, but how many times was the easy throw not made? How many times did they not see, oh, they're flat-footed, I could just launch this? That's good quarterback play, right? That's anticipation. That's seeing a problem and knowing it's there. He could have had a touchdown like that on Monday Night Football if he had a similar level of trust when Elijah Moore was matched up with what? Was it not Quan Alexander, but who was it? It's one of their linebackers that used to play for Atlanta.
Sideline?
No, this was in the middle of the field. Moore was running a wheel route in the middle of the field, and then he kind of came up. The linebacker, I think, I'm going to just say it's Quan Alexander, came up and pressed him in the middle and extended, and that's when you knew you had him. His feet were flat. He had him. You could just throw that to Moore before you see him pop open. But he wanted to see it, so he held on to the ball, got sacked. So that's what you want to see. Okay, you see a bust, or you see a mismatch, or you see something that you like, just throw it. Trust it. It's there. And if that's the guy he can get to, and I think the next step for him is when he starts trusting stuff in the middle of the field more often, that's when you're going to see David Njoku get production. That's when we're going to remember that Cedric Tillman is on the team and DPJ is on the team. Yep. That's when you're going to start to see that, because that's where those guys like to do the bulk of their work. And if you get that going and you have just a little bit of a run game, and let me be real with you, you can have no run game with the way this defense is playing. Because part of the reason we needed Nick Chubb was because the defenses were so bad. Right? Because you needed a way to play defense on offense. And how do you play defense on offense? Time of possession.
Yep.
Yeah, hold the ball. Make these possessions long. If you don't have to do that because you feel like your defense is as good as anybody, then, hey, the run game starts to matter less. The passing game matters more, because you just want to get separation as quick as possible so you can pin your ears back.
And I think some of the work that Deshaun was doing out there, especially towards the end, as the game went on, right? We talked about the center of the field, trusting that. He had two good ones to Amari Cooper and Donovan Peoples-Jones. And I think that's those kinds of plays, one, solidifies that entire field is yours to do what you want, because they have so many different weapons, right? You've got guys you can go on the outside, you can run deep routes, you can play the deep ball, cool. You've got guys you can plug in the slot. Elijah Moore does both. Plug him in the slot, get him across, like all of these different things you can do and utilize all of the space on the field. When you start to execute it, and you see that, like, you've seen him hit the sideline, you've seen him now that deep ball with anticipation right into the arms of Amari Cooper as he ran to the end zone. That was a pass that I wanted to see because I've seen it all off season in practice. He's done such a good job. Like Amari Cooper, yes, but really to Marquise Goodwin that's the connection that ball that played on Amari Cooper. He's been doing that with Marquise Goodwin all summer long, and to see him try to make those week one and not be able to, it was like, okay, what's going on here? And now he's put it to the game speed. But I really do think that not only does that open up your entire field of play, but it does help extend drives because you can go the deep ball, score, you don't have to worry about time of possession, but you also can get your checkdowns. You can do short plays, you can do slants, you can just, everything is in play and it keeps the drive going, just moving the chains. Even if it's not the run game, you just keep it going and have productive offense. And I think the Browns did a really good job of that on Sunday against the Titans. And I think that is kind of the first step of this season of showing we can do this. We can control the offense. They've already controlled the game on defense. They're giving nobody anything. You're not getting rushing yards. You're not getting passing yards. You're not getting red zone touchdowns. Good luck getting into the red zone first and foremost. Like when you're there, good luck scoring anything other than a field goal. That's the kind of thing. They've already been dominant there. Now offensively, if you can do with the things that you want to do with the weapons that you went out and got, you can control all three phases of the game. And that is what makes a championship caliber team. So it's the Titans. Yes. I want to clear it's the Titans. But the fact that there was dominance offensively, which we haven't seen all year, to complement the dominance on defense, and then solid special teams unit, this is how you navigate moving forward. Replicating what you are able to do here and adding to your plate, because this on Sunday, that kind of performance is what the Browns need to get to that level of play that they have been expected to be at with this level of talent on the roster.
And the last thing we'll talk about is Myles Garrett, because we said it during camp. I've had you on and we've talked about it where it's like, yeah, people were worried about like how Jet looked versus Myles or how this guy looked versus Myles. I was like, I think Myles is taking a leap. Like, I think he's getting better than he was before. And you're seeing him get to superhuman portions of his game at this point. Like, nobody gets covered like Myles Garrett does. Nobody forces a team to run motion like Myles
Two tight ends following him across the field. What?
Yeah, like nobody does that for anybody else in the NFL. No matter how good you think that your favorite edge rusher is, nobody does that for anybody but Myles Garrett. So it tells you offensive line coaches, offensive linemen, offensive coordinators, quarterbacks, they know that that's the most terrifying person in football. He will ruin your pass game. And he's starting to get really, he's been good, but he's really translating that excellence into his run defense as well. And this Browns run defense isn't going to be talked about as much because of what they did in total, but completely neutralizing Derrick Henry, completely just eliminating their run game, and then coming back around and Myles Garrett getting 3.5 sacks. I don't know where the hole is on this defense. I struggle to find it. I think all three linebackers are playing exceptional. Grant Delpit, when he's in at linebacker, is playing exceptional. We lost Greg Newsome today. I thought Cam Mitchell filled in fine, right? Like there was the one play where he busted, right? Where he was supposed to, I think, carry with 11. And instead, he went with whoever was in motion, and he wasn't supposed to do that. He gave up like 40 yards because of that. But other than that, I thought he played well, and that's a rookie mistake. He'll learn from that. But you struggle to find a weakness on this defense, and you hear how these coaches talk after playing this game. It's not what we didn't do. You heard Ryan Tannehill after his press conference, like, there was nothing there. Like, all game, I had no time. There was nobody open. They could cover, and they could cover. They have Myles Garrett, Zadarius Smith, and like those tackles are playing really good football too. So I don't know. Like, this defense is really there. And look, we've seen the 49ers get to this point. We've seen the Eagles get to this point, but the Eagles and the 49ers don't have a corner like Denzel Ward. The Eagles and the 49ers don't have Myles Garrett. Now, 49ers got Nick Bosa, but I always go back to this quote from one of the Philadelphia beat reporters. They saw one whiff of Myles Garrett, was like, yeah, he's better. Like, I'm not even debating that he's better than Nick Bosa. Please stop saying that. He's not.
Myles Garrett is this year, it's not even just that he's playing super well, right? Every year he plays well. He is experimenting and doing things that other people aren't. Jim Schwartz is telling them to have fun and go out there, just wreak havoc, have swag and passion, effort, badassery, all that stuff. Myles Garrett has taken that to another level. That crossover, just taunting with them, the going back and forth in motion with the tight ends. Like, he's taunting. He is teasing these teams. It's like playing with his food. That's what it feels like.
He gave the tackle advice. Like, did you catch that from the tackle's press conference? And that poor tackle, I don't think he realized what was going on there, because, like, yeah, he was actually giving me some good advice there and helping me out. And I'm like, you know how bad you got to dominate somebody to be like, hey, man, you got to make this harder next time.
Yep. And that's Myles Garrett over the years has reached in his bag and pulled out new moves, new tricks. He does, I think, one of the best jobs in the NFL of not even just taking like one move. He plays with things like the Euro step that he does. He'll add that to his bull rush and then his swim move combo to a Euro step. He is a constructor of different moves, and he does so much that other people aren't doing because he's creative on top of being dominant. And I think that is what we're seeing, this new level of Myles, is the confidence that he's had in creating different ways to put pressure on him. And obviously Myles Garrett gets his credit for being a phenomenal player so far in the first 3 games, but I think what has the potential to set him up for incredible success is what the Browns added around him. I think one of the lesser credited acquisitions this offseason, Zadarius Smith is amazing, is an incredible addition to Myles Garrett. I think the two of them together bring out the best of each other. But I think the lower credited acquisition is Obo Okoronkwo. His play has the potential to give Myles Garrett just pure dominance. Obo is so quick off the edge. He is so fast. In a way that Myles Garrett is, he's forceful, he's strong, he's agile. Obo is quick. He saw it against the Titans. He got in there, wraps Ryan Tannehill up. He doesn't get the sack. He gets the half sack because he held him there until Myles Garrett pushed through and took him down. Those are the kinds of additions that allows Myles Garrett to get in there, get the sack, make the play, but also every quarterback hit, we know it, every quarterback hit that a team makes has that quarterback in his head. The more you hit the court, you rattle them. They're not gonna feel comfortable in the pocket. They're gonna try to get the ball out quicker because they don't want to get hit. And the fact that he's got guys that are there quick enough to even just contact him, let alone hold him there and let Myles Garrett come in there and just finish it off, you're gonna get your quarterback in their head. And I think these additions to it is creating a position that Myles Garrett is in to be so much more disruptive than we've seen in years past, because he was just doing it on his own. Now he gets to take what he has built on his own with some help. And I think that is what is going to put him over the top this year. I think he's talked about wanting to get DPOY. It's always a tight race, right? Because you've got the Bosa, you got Watt, and it's a really, really tight race. And when it comes down to DPOY, a lot of the times that award is to the flashier, the one that's more on the stat sheet, not just quarterback.
The better narratives too. Yeah.
Like if you don't get a forced fumble, if you can't get a forced fumble return for a touchdown, and somebody else does. Like,
Myles had a 40% pass rush win rate. Like, he won 40% of the snaps. By the way, like, the average is like 20 for anybody who wonders what it is. Like, a good one's 20. Like, he won 40 of those rates against Pittsburgh. He actually had a worse game this week, had 3.5 sacks. He was at like 36.5. You know, I guess the other 3.5% was when he was trying the new moves out. But he had a worse game, but the stats look so much better. But if you watch him, you're like, man, Pittsburgh, you saw what Pittsburgh did to try to neutralize Myles Garrett. The following of him, the shifting. Kenny Pickett will never hold the ball more than 2 seconds while we're throwing this ball. Like, you saw that level of urgency from them. Then you look at them play Max Crosby, and they're like, we'll live one-on-one every once in a while. And it says, no, they believe that a dude like Myles is significantly different than a dude like Max Crosby, right? Like that's the different level. You don't see two tight ends following and doing all this. And for Myles to be in that situation so much that he recognized it and was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna just run back and forth. Like, he had a plan for that. That's never happened in an NFL game before. He had a plan. Like, that tells you, one, Jim Schwartz allowing him the freedom to move around. Oh God, it's terrifying. I don't know. That might, like, honestly, they might have discovered something that could break offenses, and it might become a rule change in a couple of years because people are going to complain about it being unfair. But like, the defensive lineman being able to motion and that just break an offense, I think that's like how they discovered the microwave, where it's like, oh,
this is great.
That's what that can be used for. Huh.
Yep.
Let's try that. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if you see them do stuff like that. You know, we've always had shifts on the defensive line, but like, just do a complete motion. Wonder what that does when you do it with Myles Garrett, right? Because we see him do it with elite receivers. It breaks defenses all the time. What's that going to do to your pass protection?
We just saw it. I mean, they didn't get the thing. It was pre-snap. They didn't get the snap off, but like, that's what it does. It disrupts you so much that you don't know what to do. And at any given moment, is he going to motion and come off the edge? Is he going to come in as an inside linebacker? Where's he going to go? What's he going to do? Because
if he's in motion and you snap the ball, my God, you just gave Myles Garrett a head start. Like, you know, like, that's the thing. It's like, well, you got to wait. Basically, they'll run tricks in there too, where like, oh, when Myles is at the middle of his motion and they're going to try to snap this thing, we're going to have somebody kind of trap inside and take advantage of a gap that they're going to create because they're expecting Myles to come wide on that motion. Like, look, we've seen the pick and roll stuff. The defensive line schematics have evolved significantly within like the last 5 years. Like, it's looking like basketball a lot of the times. Like, I think coordinators are realizing, oh, this is basketball. You run 2-man here, and now we're going to run 2-man, and we're going to motion this dude. We're going to have a screen set, and then we're going to back screen him, like, and throw the oop. Like, I think they discovered something, because when Myles Garrett gets that much attention and you could just do something like that to throw him off every once in a while, that's going to be in there with the basketball play. That's going to be in there with the ISO plays that they like to run with them. That's going to be in there with the Okoronkwo, Zadarius Smith, and Myles. They have so many plays to get Myles Garrett isolated. I don't know how a left tackle feels great going into that game or any game against him.
That's the beauty of it too, is like, teams can only prepare so much because they can do things that no one has done before. They haven't even done before. And they can do things that no team can replicate because not every team has a Myles Garrett paired up with Zadarius Smith, paired up with Obo, paired up with Alex Wright to come in the rotation, Dalvin Tomlinson plugging in the gap. Jordan Elliott's having a good season. Like, these are other teams.
They might send JOK or Grant Delpit, who look like the fastest guys on the field when they shoot through those gaps.
And they will get under anyone. They are agile. JOK will dive under a guy, and there's nothing you can do. And he'll just pop back.
He stays on his feet.
He stays on his feet. It is actually something that I don't think most other NFL teams have anything structured quite like this. And I think that is what's making this defense so dominant, but it's also has the potential to allow them to be so creative that it might reshape how defenses are operating and how offense have to respond, because it's crazy to think about. And I know it's one game, but just to see like one game that we're talking about, 3 games in total this season, but
in all camp. Like every stop
And-
where every time they've dragged this defense and brought it into a new city during camp. Okay, we're gonna bring this thing to Washington. Ooh, they look good. Then we bring it to Philadelphia, and Jason Kelsey was the first one to be like, "That's gonna be an elite defense." Like, no, that thing was hard to stop when they were out there in full force. They're gonna be really good this year. And we were like, okay, well, it's week 2 of camp, and then week 3 happens, and they do the same thing, and week 4 happens, they do the same thing, and the season starts, and they do the same thing, and then it was the rain. Okay, then Pittsburgh game, they do the same thing, and then it was the rain, and it was Kenny Pickett. Okay, can we stop an elite running back? And they do the same thing.
Yep.
It's been like this for like 8 weeks where we've been like, is it really that good? And we're like, every time we look for more evidence, it looks like it's that good. And it's like, at some point, I think we got to trust it. This week would be interesting because, look, you're going to have to pressure Lamar Jackson and everything else like that. But I think they're more than capable of doing it, Cam. Thank you for coming on. Always a pleasure. Make sure you check out Cam's stuff on News 5. She just did an article about Grant Delpit's, was it a charity kind of meetup with some kids in flag football?
Browns Give Back. Yeah, their Stay in the Game program. Kids who had perfect attendance got to go out and have a football field day with Grant, and he gave them school supplies, and it was very, very cute, very wholesome. And there's some kids that have some pretty good moves. There's the video that you should watch it because there's some good moves out there. Those kids they brought their A game.
Definitely. And then make sure you check out her Next Man Up. She did one, September 25th with Juan Thornhill. So getting on better, moving up the ranks on the roster. You know what I mean?
I think you guys are going to like the next one. It's a fun one. He's new to the team, but we're going to learn a little bit about one of those guys, the true next man up, plugging on the offensive line. Figure that one out.
Okay. It might be a very big addition. So make sure you check out those things. Follow her at Cami Justice, Cam CAMI Justice, spelled just like you would think. On Twitter, follow her there to make sure you get a drop on whenever she drops a new article or drops a new video package. Thank you, Cam, for coming on. See you next week.